Hello, my name is Michael O'Keefe, aka The Movie Wist. If you enjoy this interview and want to hear more top-notch film industry conversations, please press the thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and hit the bell to stay in the know. Hello, David Alvarado and Jason Sussberg. Tell my audience what your documentary We Are as Gods is about.
Sure. So there's this guy named Stuart Brand, and if you're not a particular person from the Bay Area from a certain time, let's say the late 60s, or certain interest in technology, you might not know who he is, and that would be understandable. But there are, though, in those circles, he's sort of known as this incredibly, large figure that's done a lot in terms of changing culture, and helping move technology forward. And so, Jason and I, we do science and technology films based on people, and he couldn't be a better subject for the film.
Yeah, you nailed it. But our film is, like the title implies, Stuart Brand believes that we are as gods and might as well get good at it. And for him, that was the 60s, where you were able to take LSD and open doors to perception. And in the 70s, to be the leader of an environmental movement that gave us Earth consciousness. And in the 80s, it was to be as gods, to code your own life using personal computers. And now, today, he thinks that we need to de-extinct animals to bring creatures back from extinction, which is using our godlike abilities to change the course of humanity and the planet. He is an extraordinary figure, and we are lucky to spend 3 years of our lives with him.
Okay, so why does he want to bring extinct creatures back? I still don't understand why.
Sure. Yeah. Well, this is his argument. So we'll just kind of start with him. So humans have killed off so many animals. I mean, literally hundreds of species are being extinct. Usually small animals, but sometimes large animals. If you think about the dodo bird, killed off by humans. If you think about the woolly mammoth, very likely killed off by humans. So the premise here is that if humans are killing off all these species, we should be stopping that. But if you can't stop it, can we also try to be reversing it at the same time? So, if you have an animal like the black-footed ferret or the white rhino in Africa, these animals are nearly extinct. We could use biotech to prevent extinction and sort of, make a genetic pool large enough so that they could repopulate the ecosystems that they originally inhabited. That's the concept. But the question is, should we be doing that with animals as as recently as 10,000 years ago, having been killed off like the woolly mammoth? For him, yes. And so, we're not talking about dinosaurs, the T-Rex. It's not quite Jurassic Park. It's just the same technology that Jurassic Park pretended to have. And so the question is, for environmentalists, is this an appropriate tool? Is this the kind of thing that we want to see happen to bring back species that humans have killed off? And it's entirely up to the viewer to decide. The film doesn't promote one side or the other, but we do hope that audiences walk away with a more informed view saying, should we be doing this? Is this a good idea? And if not, like, what's the argument to just watch these animals being extinct time and time again going forward? It's hopefully going to have some good conversations come out of it.
Okay, and Stewart also has this positive idea of technology. Using technology is always good, sort of a maximalist position. Is he okay with automation? I mean, where does that argument end?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, just to back it up a bit, you're right. He's a technology maximalist. At the end of the day, he is a optimist. He's not like a Pollyanna utopian who thinks that, like, we're going to engineer everything and we're going to solve all the world's problems. But if you had to take a side, Stuart is much more in the camp that technology, if used appropriately, is just a reflection of human will and desire. And there's going to be missteps along the way, but our best chance out of climate change and extinction is through technology. As far as like automation, or space colonies or life extension or whatever stuff out there, our film was really narrowly focused on climate and extinction. But I think in the end, Stuart is an optimist. So if I had to guess, on automation. I think he's probably realizes that there's going to be shadows where there are, light. And so, you have to look at it as the whole picture. But overall, technology, whether it's automation or anything, is more technology is good. And the answer to getting or solving technological problems is either a more human take on technology, small scale take on technology, whether it's nuclear power or whatever. But technology is not in it of itself a problem.
Okay. So are you guys happy that this documentary is in South by Southwest? And tell my audience how the festival circuit has changed for you.
Well, it's interesting because, we actually got into South by Southwest last year. So we were going to play this time last year. This would have been the third time that we premiered at South by. We love the festival. It's a fantastic festival, but it's also the first festival that got pulled after the pandemic began. And so, we had a proper punch in the gut, and have just been, reeling about that for the last year, because some, films have decided to go on and show at digital festivals in 2020. We've decided to not. We've withheld it from festivals. So we literally just put the film, basically aside, and we haven't shown it anywhere this whole time. So this truly is the world premiere. So we don't know how it's going to go. We don't know what it's like to be in a digital festival and interacting with digital audiences. Brian Eno, who did the original score for the whole movie, he's going to do a Q&A with us with South by, and people seem to be really excited about that. We're excited about that. But yeah, it's all yet to be known.
And tell me about co-directing. How do you guys break up the responsibility?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty well. So this is our third independent feature. We've also collaborated on television specials and short films. And David and I worked together for 11 years professionally. And then before that, we were, friends and collaborators in grad school when we were at film school together. So I don't know how to do it without him. I'm saying, no, it's not a dependency thing. I think that we have two brains, and we're able to make a better product for it. David shoots, I do audio, we both produce, we both direct. There's a shorthand there. There's a hive mind where we feel that, we can come at a project stronger together. And there's, I like to think that we have a sort of a style. I wouldn't say that we're auteurs or anything, but you can feel our movies. There's no doubt that we have a style that from our three films that comes across when you watch the movies. But our style is to come to start with like a purist observational approach. We provoke our subjects, we put them into situations, and then we use interviews to scaffold it along. It's not radical cinema by any means, but it's something that works for us, and it's something that we do and collaborate together and are stronger for it.
Okay. And whose idea was it to do this particular documentary?
Well, what's interesting, it's almost like we're trading off, because the first film was Jason. It's about these scientists who wanted to live forever, technology, creators who wanted to be immortals, essentially. That was Jason's idea, and it's a brilliant film. Yeah, we worked together on that, and who knows, it could have been a disaster, but we really got away with that film. It premiered at South by, had great success. We love that project. The next one was, we wanted a broader audience. So I recommended, well, let's see what Bill Nye is up to. Bill Nye, the science guy, everybody wonders who the heck that guy really is. Is he an actor or a real scientist? So we approached him. He let us into his life, and we made the film, Bill Nye, Science Guy. And then here we go again, Jason Stern, he comes up with this Stuart Brand character, who just recently announced this idea to resurrect extinct species like the woolly mammoth. Well, that sounds like a movie. It sounds like Jurassic Park. So we dove right in. And so, yeah, I guess it's my turn. So
you're up, dude. Your turn.
Well, I don't know, maybe 12, 13 years ago, I read The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, good times. Definitely an interesting read. Tell my audience a bit about that book.
So that book was written. So I should tell you real quick that I read that book was the very first book that I read after my son was born, which is kind of like a psychedelic experience as having a child. And so I was reading this book while I was holding this like infant and doing research for this project. And I called David and I was like, dude, we should just mail it in. Like the whole psychedelic experience was written so well. We should give up filmmaking and try this thing called writing, because it was such a good book. But to back it up a bit, it was written by Tom Wolfe, who is sort of the foremost, I guess, New York biographer who writes these unbelievable nonfiction works, from like Vanity of the Bonfires, or in this case, it's Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. And he does what we try to do with cinema, which is to embed himself into the lives of extraordinary non-fictional subjects. In this case, it was Ken Kesey, who was a novelist in and of himself, who wrote an amazing, canon of fiction books that every high schooler reads. And he had given up writing to start this thing called the Merry Pranksters, where Stuart was a character. In fact, he's the opening pages of Tom Wolfe's book. But the book is written in this sort of stream of consciousness, psychedelic way that makes you feel like you're on an acid trip just even reading the book. And Tom Wolfe famously never did LSD, which makes him that much more of a genius, because he was able to tap into the mindset of what it's like to be on acid without ever having to take it himself. But Stuart factored into that book heavily, because he was on the bus, this amazing psychedelic painted bus that went from California to New York to try to proselytize the virtues of acid and the counterculture, and just sort of to give up your square existence and quit your job, drop out of school, tune in, drop out. That was the motto of the time. And Stuart was sort of the West Coast vanguard of that psychedelic experience.
Yeah, some fun trivia for the audience. The Magical Mystery Tour album by the Beatles was influenced by what you were just talking about with the bus ride. And also for Hunter S. Thompson fans, in his book Hell's Angels, they go to a party with the Merry Pranksters, and both books, Hell's Angels and Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test, document that party, the same party.
I had no idea. That's awesome. It's like two granddaddies of what is that, like sort of like that style of writing, going to the same party. Is that's pretty funny. That's kind of like the Marvel universe. Right. People meeting each other. Anyways, that's an amazing story. Did not know that.
Fun facts. So is Stuart an intense guy to be around?
I mean, what do you think, David? I think he's like he's like your cool hip grandpa, but he's like an incredible philosopher and a thinker. And so like you can't say a lot of bullshit in front of Stuart, because he knows so much about the world that you gotta, he's an intellect. You gotta come at him with your thinking brain. But I look at him as like a cool hip grandpa. What is your take, David?
Yeah, I wouldn't use the word intense. I mean, unless you're talking about his intellect, and right. I'm not trying to praise him too much, but it's just clear when you're talking to the man that like this guy is smart. He spent his whole life thinking. I mean, I love reading books, and I'm an educated person, but he takes this all to the next level. I mean, he lives in a pile of books essentially, and just inhales them every day, and he'll retain that information and just sit in his chair and think about it and then write something. I mean, it's just amazing. Like I hope that I can sort of absorb some of that that he's done his whole life and grow as a person through it. So his intellect is intense for sure. But yeah, like Jason, I think he's also, he just sit there and have a great conversation about anything and would be very natural and friendly.
And tell my audience a little bit about his magazine, The Whole Earth Catalog.
Sure, and then you can chime in what I leave out. But the Whole Earth Catalog is this amazing compendium of counterculture ephemera. So what it was a newsprint catalog that just had topics from nomadics, like how to build a geodesic dome, to gardening, organic gardening before there was such a thing as organic gardening, or how to have safe gay sex at a time where people weren't open and out of the closet, or how, the best hammer to use. Very quotidian, normal things, and then extraordinary things. Like if we were going to live on a space colony, like what would that look like? So it was what Steve Jobs called the Bible of the counterculture. It was the hippie manifesto. It is the most my experience of it is it's a futuristic view of the past. If you look at it today, it looks like a world, a future you want to live in, and it was written in the 70s, which is remarkable. It's all in this cheap newsprint, and so it has this DIY spirit. And you know, I think David and I both kind of like came of age in the 1990s, where it was a lot of like punk rock and indie culture, indie music. And we grew up with zines like Slingshot and other magazines. And it all harkens back to the original zine, which is the Whole Earth catalog.
All right, David and Jason, thank you for your time. Before I let you go, is there anything else you would like to say about this project?
Yeah, well, we just hope that people watch the film and, you know, realize it's not really arguing any position or the other. I mean, you know, we would say that climate change is the most important issue, but the film doesn't try to convince you that resurrecting the woolly mammoth is the only way to fight it. So, you know, we want people to walk away not with being convinced of anything, but actually to have more questions than when they walked in. Is it a good idea to de-extinct animals? Does humanity need to think about solving climate change from an engineering perspective rather than just let's stop, you know, charging our phones and using certain types of energy? We want people to have these questions and walk away and talk more about it and research more for themselves. And, you know, we hope they do that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time, guys.